Okay, and here we are, guys. Welcome to another episode of Games y Más, the podcast where we talk about all things board games, video games, pop culture, you name it. We're here again with Joe and Alex. Guys, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Hello, podcast. How are
How's
you
it
guys
going?
doing tonight?
I'm very excited again here. We have you guys back. We're going to be talking about board games, our favorite content that we love to talk about.
We love some board games.
And yes, and so we're very excited here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. We love seeing your comments and reading all your discussions that you have on there. And if you guys want to ask us a question to the podcast, feel free to send us a message. We're on all socials. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, email, YouTube. You can go ahead and send us a message there. We'll get your questions in, and we'll go ahead and answer them in the next podcast episode. So,
Do it. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, awesome. So,
Follow this guy.
yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, thank you
This
guys.
is a great podcast.
Yes.
Pre-podcast shout out. You're already watching. You're in for a treat.
Yes, yes, I'm very excited. We're going to be talking about our favorite, Joe's favorite board game,
This
Root.
is my favorite board game.
Yes,
I
some
love
ver-
that.
some
The
ver-
last time we were on the podcast, you asked me what it was, and he was immediately like, "Oh, we're making a Root episode."
Yes, we are. I knew right away. So yeah, so I'm very excited. So with all that being said, grab a chair, pull up a chair, grab some dice, y acompáñeme a jugar. Guys, thank you again so much for joining us.
Yeah,
Very
thanks
excited.
for having us, man.
Yeah.
Excited to talk about this. Is a great game. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's my favorite. It's my favorite game that I don't get to play as much as I want to.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we got to play it today and gave us some good feedback to share on the pod.
Oh yeah. This is like my first time ever playing Root, and I was very impressed by the depth that we were able to kind of explore in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very to hear your thoughts about what you thought about the game. We can talk more in depth about the mechanics of the game and things like that. Usually, at the beginning of our episodes, we do the icebreaker questions.
Oh, that's good.
But
Right.
guys, if you've been following us, we already did the icebreaker questions with them
Yeah.
on our previous episodes when they were sharing about Widgets and Digits, their board game that they created. So if you want to hear what their favorite board game and their favorite video game is, go ahead, check out that episode. We kind of gave away the answer though already.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the intro.
Spoiler alert.
But go ahead and watch it.
Watch more episodes.
Yeah, go
you
watch
won't
more.
regret it. You won't
Check
regret
out
it.
Widgets and Digits. And speaking of Widgets and Digits, I want to go ahead and just
Yeah.
plug that in real quick, guys. Check
Quick
this
plug, quick plug. Okay, so
Right
one of the reasons why we're on the pod, other than hanging out with Vic and always having such a good time, is we are creators of a board game. The game we made is called Widgets and Digits. It's actually live on Kickstarter now. So little plug. Honestly, if you love engine building games, this might be something you want to check out. What makes Widgets and Digits kind of unique is it's a race against time engine builder. So you might be used to these long engine building games. This isn't that. It's a fun strategic game that'll be over in a reasonable amount of time. Great
Yeah.
for us 30-year-olds that can't have those 4-hour board game
Oh,
nights as
man,
much
yeah.
as you want. And it's a game about entrepreneurship and creating your own business. So it's a fun game. It works in some fun party game elements that make it kind of a game you can play with anyone. And it also comes with 2 free expansions. So it has a base mode that everyone can enjoy, and then you can kind of build upon that to basically have a new game experience the first 4 times you play. And then with the added replayability that is built into the game itself, it's a game you can play over and over again and always have a good time.
Let's get these guys on the shelves of your local board game shops, Target, Walmart, wherever you want. Let's
that
get
would be
this game
amazing.
going. Yes, let's get this game rolling. It's a fun game. If you're interested in playing it, send us a message on our Instagram, on Facebook, again, anywhere that you can find us as well, or you can send them a message at Friendly Bee Gaming.
Friendly Bee Game
yeah.
Co. Yeah, look us up.
Which I love that name so much. That's such a
Because
fun
we're,
name.
we're friends.
Exactly,
We're
yeah,
building
bring
a
it-
hive together.
Bringing
you
the
know?
hive together, yes.
And if you're interested in the game, if you check out our Kickstarter, we do have a link to a form where if you want to schedule a TTS playtest on Tabletop Simulator, you can sign up and
Try
we'll.
before you buy.
Go check it out, guys. Fun game. Really love it. Monopoly, you better watch out because this is the new Monopoly right here. I love it. I love it. Short and it's shorter.
Hasbro, you better watch it.
We're coming for you.
There you go. Yeah, so don't worry. But yeah, so there we go. A little plug-in for you guys for
Thanks.
Widgets
Thanks,
Digits. I
appreciate
love because I love playing this game. It was fun. We got to play it again at OrcCon 2024, which is fun. We got some footage there. We played with the Sad Boys who came around, tried your guys' games, and it was fun. We got some vlog footage. We'll probably post that up soon. I don't know. We'll see. We've gotten to
Always got to be posting those cons.
yeah, we got into some shenanigans, so we'll see what goes down, stuff like that. But this episode is gonna be about Root, the game Root. For you guys that don't know what Root is, it is a asymmetrical board game. For how many players is it?
Up to
actually
4.
plays up to 6.
Six
so
players.
yeah, so you can get a big group going on this one.
Yeah.
I will say it does take a little while with 6
Right,
players.
yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you're gonna do 6, you're having that 4-hour game.
Yeah,
night.
exactly. Yeah, so buckle up for that one.
At least. Yeah.
I mean, great way to
Um,
spend an evening.
Yeah, it is. It'd be
exactly.
fun.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's a fun game to
And what's
play.
nice is because it does play well with 6, because like the vagabond character, it
Oh,
doesn't take
yeah.
up a ton of space.
Yeah.
You know, you really can
You're in
fit
between.
6 people on the board.
Right, right.
You know, it felt kind of roomy with 3 players, to be honest,
Yeah.
when we played. Like, I
It did.
felt like there was a lot of available space on the board.
Yeah.
So you could definitely slot people in.
I don't know. I put some chokeholds out there for you, Alex.
Oh,
you
yeah,
couldn't, you
yeah.
couldn't move around. You had to have-
Sweating a little bit.
Yeah, sweating there, but it was
Dropping
fun.
bombs left and right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a fun game. I will say that it's not a board game that you can just whip out with anyone.
No.
It's a type of game that it takes a certain attention span. Certain, it's not an easy play game where like you just whip it out and start playing it. Like you got to focus on what you're doing. Each of the clans or the species that you get to be have their own rules, have their own setup, have their own guide. So it's like you can't really. I can't just be like, you do this on your turn. Like you gotta have to come up with your own mechanics and stuff like that. And I know you can agree with that one.
There's 2 things that I'll say about this. What's interesting is I definitely agree. Like this is a more strategic board game. I think it's like a 3.5 on Board Game Geek. It's definitely in that like higher category of complexity. What's interesting though is like the base set of rules isn't like too complicated. Understanding ruling, understanding card
Right.
suit, understanding crafting. The fundamental rules I wouldn't say are too complicated, and I wouldn't even say each individual faction is that complicated. Like it's kind of like a 5-minute explanation for each faction.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that like to really play this game effectively, you have to really understand what everybody else can do.
Yeah.
Because I think you guys were surprised by like my dividend mechanic.
Yeah.
Right? All of a sudden it's like, why is he getting so many points?
Yeah, like, whoa.
You know, and
Yeah.
like that's the whole thing. Is like you guys hadn't played against this character. You don't see how it scores. You don't see the late game scaling it has. And like I think that is what makes it challenging, is to play effectively. You have to understand what the other 4 factions can do, which just requires like multiple gameplays,
Yeah.
right? And then the fact that there's so many expansions and you can play it with so many different people and people play so differently, it really is a game that like needs a lot of game experience to get that
Into-
like
yeah, yeah.
strategic
Yeah.
game in. And that is the challenge. It's
Yeah.
like when you're playing a game that's like a 2 to 4 hour game, and it's like, well, the first game nobody's gonna know what they're doing, so it's
Yeah.
really the second, the
Just
third,
going
or
off.
the 4th game you'll have, you'll really be able to get in there.
Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah.
like, that's a lot of time commitment.
Yeah.
You
it's like,
know?
oh man.
But that's
But-
the thing, like it keeps it fresh. It's so much replayability. You get to learn like a new faction at least what
Yeah.
is it, 6 or 8 times?
Oh,
there's-
I mean,
with
and
the
the-
3rd expansion.
Yeah, so I mean, I only have 8 factions. There's actually 2 more I haven't got yet, and I'm gonna get them.
There you go.
10 factions, but the fact is like, yeah, so like you could play 10 different times. It's a completely different game for you all 10 of those times. But then if you think about the different emergent strategies that come from the way the factions interact with each other, you're looking at like near endless combinations of just emergent strategy, and then not to mention like it'll probably take you a couple times with each individual faction to really work out how you like to play it. So this is a game you could play like easily 1,000 times and
Yeah.
like just have tons of different fun each
No,
time.
I agree, and that's
Yep.
what I love about board games: the replayability of board games, that you can play it multiple times, try different factions, see how they play out, and then even if you do choose the same faction, you can try different ways that you did. Like, oh, I did it this way, and I'm gonna try it this way. And I love this game. This game's a fun game to play with. I agree. Yeah, it's a game that I'll go back to my statement. You do need a certain crowd to play.
Yeah.
You can't be having a party like, oh, let's play Root. And
It's
everyone's
definitely
like,
not a party
yeah.
game. It's
Yeah.
a strategy. I tried to break it out at my buddy's bachelor party,
Oh, no.
and we got through the setup, and everyone took one turn, and and then I think it was like already an hour had passed, and
Yeah.
we're like, I don't think we should finish this.
Oh
game.
my god.
Yeah, it just takes too long.
I mean, it is my most complex game.
Yeah.
I'll be straight up. Like, I have Scythe, I have Dune Imperium, and like Root is absolutely my most complex game.
Really?
And I honestly I won't suggest it unless I have an audience of just like board
Really?
gamers. And I'll break out Wingspan no problem to play
Yeah.
with like fresh audiences, but like Root I won't even try. I'm
Really?
like, I'm like, there's no way. Like you have to be like ready for what Root is. And
Yeah.
the funny part is I I have two of my friends that also love this game, that also own it, that also own the video game versions, and we still can't get Root Nights together because you just add in like one or two like people, like the girlfriends who like don't like,
Like, I don't know
aren't
what
into it. And
playing-
we're like, oh, it's not gonna happen. Like,
Yeah, yeah. You need to have like a full cast of everyone.
gotta have
Like,
a full
that's
cast.
played. They know what
Yeah.
they're doing, and we're ready to plug and play. Let's
Yeah.
go. No,
Yeah.
no explaining any rules. Maybe some refresher rules. Like, oh wait, did we do this? Like, no.
I also think it's because of the player interaction of the different factions that you can't have that one person that's like
I
not
agree.
into it and
Oh, I
doesn't
agree.
because it's like that's where the game comes from. So
Yeah.
like you know
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's one of those games that like, and I will say like for those of you that go to board game shops or looking for board games that are not into the world of board gaming, and you see this box and you think, oh, it's cute, and, nice. This would be a fun game to play. Just a fair warning: this is one of those complicated games that maybe I would steer you away from. Maybe try something else a little bit less. Maybe get into like the Sellers with 10 expansions. Get into those a little bit. Introduce yourself more into those worlds of board games instead of just diving deep into this game because you don't want to spend $60, $70 on the game. And then you never open it. You open it up and you're like, oh, there's all these booklets. I don't know what to read. And then you never play it. And then it just collects dust in your.
It does
dust
have
shelf.
2 rule books. That's how you know. You open it up and you're like double rule book. You're like, oh.
Yeah, and that alone, people are like, nah, never mind. I don't want to play this. Put it away.
But that being said, like yes, the light to early medium audience, not the game. Try the lighter stuff. Play Azul. Play Catan.
Yeah.
If you're a strategy board gamer though, like you want to try this game.
Yes.
It's totally worth the try. It's like it's worth the effort to sink into it because, like even a game like Scythe, which I would consider a masterpiece game, right?
It's a fun
Scythe
game.
is a masterpiece game. We don't play Scythe that much. You
Yeah.
know, we play it maybe a couple times. Yes, it has factions. They're very similar,
Yeah.
slightly different. You know, like the fact is, Root is a game you just won't get tired of playing. So it's like you sink in the effort because you know it's worth it. Like you're always going to want to play that game
Right.
again. It's always going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's always going to be different enough to be worth it.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, and it really has a character for like any mood or any kind of player. Like if you're kind of a low energy and you're feeling kind of like, oh, I want to be a bit more passive, there's a class for that. And if you want to just wipe the board and dominate everyone, there's also a class for that.
And what I love about it too is the factions all have their own backstory because like
Oh.
I don't get into like the backstory
Yeah.
and like even like in Dune Imperium in Scythe like yes they have backstory, it's like whatever, fine, it's
Yeah.
like background knowledge for me. These though, it's like the otters are starting their own business and I have to actually sell my cards to everyone
Yeah,
else
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, where there's muck there's clams.
Yeah,
And I'm
there you
like-
go. There it
I
is.
just talked to my manager, we've got a changing price coming in, a discount, just you're
Hang
my
tight, hang
favorite
tight.
customer. You know, you become the faction. And
Yeah.
like, when I play the Woodland Alliance, they're all about like spreading their little pamphlets and spreading sympathy and then starting revolts. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
funny. Like you're like, the fires of revolution have been lit. We must rise against our oppressors. And like, you know, I'm
Start
like,
going into
it's
it,
so
yeah.
easy to get
Destroy
into
the cats.
spirit.
Yeah.
It's not a role playing game, but it can be a
It
role
can be,
playing.
and that's the
Right.
fun of it.
Like,
That's the fun of it. Where you
Yeah,
we
yeah.
make it roll. You dive into deep into your character, who you or your species you are. It makes it more enjoyable. It makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, all right, it's your turn.
It feels
Alright,
like
your turn, yeah.
betrayal almost for me. 'Cause,
Yes.
like, with betrayal, you can kind of
You can
feel
super
your-
get into that
Yeah,
one,
you
yeah.
can super get into the characters. Like you're the creepy old man. You're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
crawling around. Like
Spiderwebs come and
they're
grab you.
characters that you actually they're distinct enough with backstory enough that you can kind of emulate it. And it's because the gameplay aligns to like what they're doing. The mechanics are so nicely blended with that faction background that it feels coming to
Yeah,
life. You can feel
definitely,
yourself being that character.
Definitely. Well, Joe, since it's your favorite board game, I'll give you the honor of. Can you give us like a good 2-3 minute synopsis of what
Yeah.
the game is, what it is? We've spoken about how the complexity of the game is, how it is, how much fun it is to play, and how it is to check out. But if you just want, for those listening, like, okay, Root,
Yeah, let's do
it's
it.
complex, but I'm hooked in. I want to know what this game is.
Yeah, we've talked about what it is.
Yes.
Let's give you the 2-minute like
Yeah.
how do you actually
Yeah, how do you play, yeah.
So it's the I think I don't know what the slogan is. I think it's like the game of might and right. Oh, it is
Yeah.
a game of woodland
Might
might
and
and right. So essentially at its core it is kind of a area control game. You have this woodland map with these different sections and you are trying to battle, in most of the case battle, some case a few other things for control of these squares. And basically what makes the game unique is each faction there's some common ways to score victory points. Everyone's trying to get 30 victory points to win. So you have crafting, which is like a common way everyone can do that. You can build these items for victory points, but each faction essentially has its own core mechanic for how they score victory points. And what makes the game unique is that their core mechanics are all completely different. So, for example, one of the main cast of characters is the cat, and the way they score victory points is by constructing buildings, right? Then there's another character, which is the birds, which are also a starting character. They're a little more similar. They score points for owning buildings, not for constructing them, but for owning them. So it's more about keeping their buildings alive. But their core mechanic is a snowballing mechanic. So they are committing actions to do, they have to say, I'm going to do these 4 actions every single turn. And the more cards that they commit to a given action, the more times they can do it, but they have to do it every single turn. And if they fail to do it even one turn, they go into what's called turmoil, and they lose a bunch of points, and the amount of points they lose is dependent on how many cards they've committed at that point. So it has this snowball effect of as long as you can keep doing it, you're able to do more and more and more and more stuff and maybe build even more buildings so you score even more points, but then you fail one time and you lose a ton of points.
Right.
And then there's a third character, and their way that they score points is, like I said, by spreading these little sympathy tokens, which don't do anything by themselves. However, if you don't remove them in time, they can cause a revolt and destroy all of your opponent's characters in one square. And it's really crazy. It's like, oh, the fires of revolution have been lit. And so because each faction has a different core mechanic, a different way they play, and a different way of scoring points, it is really, really unique. And when we're talking different, it isn't like different as in my building is purple, my building is blue. We're talking like they are doing completely different things. One guy is doing quests. One guy is planting bombs and trying to trick everyone as to is it a bomb? Is it not a bomb? One guy's trying to sell his cards to you. It's almost like they're playing completely different games. The level of difference is that we're seeing. And that's what makes the game so fun, is because when you play a different faction, it truly feels like almost a completely different game. And because you get such differences of factions, like the different way they interact, the different combinations of factions, each game is so completely different. It's not just different because you're playing a different game. It's different because the interactions are different, the experience is different, the way people might play their faction might be different from how you would play it. And it all just adds up for more diversity of play than I've seen in any game.
Oh yeah, well put. I couldn't put it any more perfectly than how you said it with that.
Thanks, man.
It's a fun game. And obviously you're like, okay, that's cool. Well, how do you win? Well, it goes by the point system. Everyone's trying to score points. First one to 30 points wins. Or if you get the dominance card, where you're in control of these areas, they're called clearings. If you're in control of 3 of those, you're pretty much the dominant species of the whole woodland realm. And stuff
dominance is an interesting mechanic. It's really kind of a catch-up mechanic,
Yeah.
right? Because the way you score dominance is you basically forfeit your right to win by points. So, but it's helpful because it's like, oh, I have 0 points, right? And this guy's at 24. He's about to win, but I don't care. Well, you have to have at least 10 to be able to do it. But but you could be like, there's no way I'm catching up that way. Let me just get rid of it, completely change how I win. Now it's about area control. And so certain races are really good at scoring points through crafting or certain things. They might get a ton of points, but they're not good at fighting. And you could be a fighter who's not really getting the other points the other ways. But now if you switch to area control, suddenly the advantage is in your corner. So it's never a runaway victory. People can always kind of come from behind. And because the different factions have different strengths in different areas, you might be losing on those things, doesn't matter. I'll just focus on my thing, and they can't really beat me at my thing. So you always have a way that makes you feel like you're winning.
There you go.
Yeah, I feel like the best way to describe this, having experienced it for the first time, is really, it's kind of an ecosystem builder in a sense, because everyone has their own niche, everyone has their interactions with each other, and you build a different ecosystem of players every single time because of the different interactions between them. So it's really interesting in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It does feel like a little woodland ecosystem.
I know, right?
You got your own little system.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as like a game within mini games.
Yeah, it is
like
kind of.
mini
There
games.
are the little mini games, especially when you play with the vagabond.
Yeah,
and you're,
exactly.
scoring
Yeah.
little quests or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's fun, but yeah. So that guys is kind of a synopsis of the game. If it caught your curiosity, go ahead and check it out. You can find it in your local board game stores, online, Amazon. Not sponsored by them, but I'm just letting you guys know that you should go check out this game if it's something that you think is, something that you might want to bring to board game night someday. Or if it's like, this is too complicated, I don't want to play it, then okay, well, I guess we can move on.
And I'll
Then get
ask-
widgets and digits then. Then you can
Widgets and digits.
Yeah, check it out.
There you go.
The other stab I'll say for Root is
Yeah.
they have a Steam version of the game.
That's right, yes.
And it's actually really strong. Like I have the Steam version of Root and the Steam version of Scythe. Steam version of Scythe to me feels a little like it works, but it's the Steam version of Root is like really
It's good.
nice, super clean, little animations for fighting, and it takes all of like that setup and time like challenge and it
Yeah.
just like get rid of it. Everything is like so much quicker, easier. It's like 20-30 minute games when you play the Steam
Definitely.
version.
So go check it out. Check out Root if you guys are interested in it, or message us. We can probably get a Root session going. We'd love to check it out. I know Joe, you'd love to play it again
Always.
and explain it and stuff like that. Be ready for like an hour explanation though, because it takes a while. But after that though, we get into
After
it.
you're done with that, it's a great
Yeah,
hour.
yeah.
You're
Slow
having
burn
fun.
at the beginning, but then we get into it.
You know, it's a game when you're like, you do the explanation, you take a break after it, and you're like, oh, okay, everyone take pause, drink some water, then we'll start playing.
Let's play. And then you're like, oh wait, I forgot to tell you about this rule.
I know,
Hold
there's
on.
so many
Give me another 10 minutes. I gotta
There's
explain
so
this
many-
rule.
Oh wait, there's more.
There's more. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Fun game. I love playing it and stuff.
Yeah,
like
but that's
that.
the thing. Like once you learn how your character plays, you really fall into the groove of it. Like once you learn how your character is supposed to how to do things and how you interact with other people, it becomes so fast. Like your
Yeah.
turn is over in like a minute if
That
you
was
know
the
what
whole
you're
thing.
doing.
Like, explanation is long, but you guys like once you kind of got it, you got it pretty fast. Now I am curious. So you played Corvid for the first time, which is an expansion faction.
Yes.
What were your thoughts? I want to kind of hear like we did play earlier, audience. Just so you know, we played earlier. I think it was. Alex has never played Root before, and Vic, you never played Corvid.
The expansion,
So I'm curious to see like what are your thoughts
Right.
on like how that playthrough went.
No, of course, yeah.
What did you think of that expansion?
I want to give Alex first. I want to.
Oh, you wanna hear? Okay,
I want to.
okay.
I want to hear about your
Let's
your
push it
your
over here.
experience.
Yeah, Alex,
and then
yeah.
I'll give you my experience.
So
with,
this
like,
was completely raw Root experience. Like,
Yeah.
you had never done it before.
So, yeah.
ever.
Yes.
And then just for reference, he did play the Marquis de Cat faction, whatever it's called.
Yeah,
yeah, Marquis Ducat.
The cats.
The
He played cat.
kitties.
The kitties.
Would
That
you-
is probably the best starting faction. Period. So like, if anybody's new to the game, they're playing the cats.
And if you hear meowing in the background, that's my
Yeah,
cats.
exactly.
Those are my
Cats
cats.
for cats.
It's very
Yeah.
thematically appropriate.
Yeah, what you think?
But yeah, definitely like it was very straightforward in terms of figuring out what you needed to do as a faction because I was looking at all the other factions and everyone had these really a little bit more convoluted ways of scoring points, whereas the cats it's mostly just like expansionism and also building up your constructs.
Yeah.
Like you got your
It's
lumber
like classic
mills, you got,
engine building, right?
yeah,
for sure.
your workshops, etc. I mean, ultimately, the cats, apart from the combat, it felt a little bit less interactive with other people as opposed to like, since you were playing the Riverfolk,
Right.
You were pretty much like pushing your wares on everyone every single turn. Whereas the cats, it's more like okay, I generate my wood / lumber at the start. I spend it on building stuff. I keep building up my own
And-
empire.
Yeah, so this is interesting because for me, I've played the game a couple times, and I will say part of that is the factions you're dealing with. Because Riverfolk is not a combat faction. Like right off the bat, you're like, oh, this guy's like never gonna fight anybody.
Yeah.
Now, some people might play it differently, but I don't think combat is like what people do with Riverfolk. And then with the Corvid, it was interesting as well. Like you could fight, and you were getting some battles in there
Yeah.
as well. But like I feel like you're always trying to push your tokens
Yeah.
and like use your guys for tokens and
Yeah.
not maybe fighting.
Yeah.
So I do think some of the like I will say the cats are definitely a battler. Like they're definitely a fighter. I wonder if maybe we weren't as like combat heavy factions and that influenced maybe, but also like first game you're probably gonna be like more like passive and protectionist
Yeah,
maybe. So
That's how I am with when it comes to board gaming. Sometimes is that if I know somebody has never played it before, I'm more
Yeah.
passive.
Right.
So I'm like, so I don't want to
Right.
be like, I hate this game. They just keep attacking me. This game
And
sucks.
what I will say is the cats are good for a little bit of a passive play style because you're
Right.
building up that fortress of solitude. You literally have a fortress. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
if you want to play passive, you can. You know.
But it really does feel like in order to really succeed as a cat, like you can get by just by building your own engine, but if you really want to win, you need to use your combat prowess to really
You
beat
have
other
to
people
use-
down.
You have to win
at
by
the same
might,
time.
if not by right.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
There you go.
I know
Yeah,
that's
nice.
the thing because like I as like a player, I'm definitely more of like a builder instead of a fighter.
Yeah.
So I mean, Cat was definitely good because it had both of those elements, but
Yeah.
it's really important to see how those interact with the other classes as
That's
well.
true. It's kind of like it feels like you have there's probably a window of opportunity to smash your opponents.
Yeah.
And it feels like like any combat game, you don't get a ton of windows of opportunity.
Yeah.
If you take your shot, like you
Yeah.
might expose yourself too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's always at least one opportunity of like they're catching up. This is where I shut them down, and
Yeah.
like looking out for those.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah, and answering your question about playing the new faction, so I was like, my overall thoughts was I like that faction. It
Yeah.
was interesting because it's like, yeah,
It was
I'm
funny.
sneaking-
You
I'm
were funny
sneaking-
with it,
Yeah, I was
yeah.
like, I'm sneaking in my little tokens. I want to make sure, like, is it a bomb? Is it a snare? Is it something else? Extortion?
Right.
What is it? So I like, but I felt like it was a little harder to master because you are waiting on turns. You can't just be like, bah, 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 bah. You just gotta be like, all right, I gotta set my people here
Yeah.
first and stuff. And I tried playing him off as like, we're the mafia. We're the Corvid family. Here we're gonna go and put our people here and then put our things here. This is our territory, So I was trying to play off as the mafia, like, hey, we're coming in here.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So the Corvid's funny. I thought like for your personality, you played it great. Like it was hilarious. Like you were definitely being funny with the tokens, and like that's 100% how you play Corvid. It's
Yeah.
like you're getting inside other people's heads. Like,
Yes.
what do you think? Like maybe
Yeah.
this one's a bomb. Like
Yeah.
that was hilarious. That's definitely how you play Corvid. Like if you're a tricky person, if you like making your friends
Yes,
feel nervous,
and I love that.
like
yes.
that's what that faction is. That's the troll
Yeah.
faction for sure.
There you go.
But yes, I agree completely. It's a tricky faction.
It is.
On paper, it seems easy. It's actually almost more stressful as the Corvid guys,
Yep.
right? Because you don't win unless your token's lit.
Yep,
And so
exactly.
like now there is that one token, the raid one, right? Which
Yes.
you kind of want them to kill, right?
That's why I was trying to goad you guys
Yeah.
to be like, come in, like,
Yeah.
this is you, Alex. I'm like, come over here,
But
attack
like,
me, bro.
Right.
Come here.
but that's the whole thing is you have to like you also have to read your opponents. Are they attacking my tokens or not? Because like if they aren't, then maybe you switch it up and like and it's tricky. Like honestly, the first time I played Corvid, I got my butt kicked. Sorry to tell you, audience. You did score the 1 point there. It was a
Yeah.
rough.
I was
run
in the
to
board,
throw
though. I
me
still-
on
I
our
still
point
made it.
pick over here.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
still
was a
made
solid
podium.
point
Yeah,
though. You
solid
earned
point.
that
I
one.
got it.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but
I got my
like,
butt whooped. I got my butt whooped.
But you know what? Hey, it happens to all of us. I'll tell you, like that's the whole thing with Root is like my first time with most of these factions, like I did score 0 points.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, man, I can't get off the ground.
I suck.
And that one especially, since like you have to like set your tokens up to even earn anything.
Yeah.
It's tricky to figure out like. And then you have to get a read for people. It definitely takes a couple playthroughs
It does, yeah.
to start getting the wins
Yeah.
with the Corvid.
I agree.
Yeah, they're a tricky faction. It's stressful for everybody. And
Yeah.
not just the people playing against them who are like, oh, he's gonna blow up my stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
stressful for you because you're like,
Yeah.
are you gonna attack it or not?
Yeah, like, please let me flip it over next turn.
Yeah, like, oh,
Yeah,
it's tricky.
It is
It's
a tricky, yeah, it's a tricky faction. I enjoyed it though. I like enjoying the complexity of it. 'Cause I'm like, okay, cool. Let me figure out a flow. Yeah, with Alex, when you were coming and attacking me, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
he's
like-
being a little aggressive towards me. So let me
Yeah,
set
switch
some.
to the raid.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
switch some tokens around and stuff like that.
It's
I,
like
I promise you that's a faction you're going to want to play a couple times to get a feel for like just how people interact with them.
Yeah.
And then you can start to be more
Yes.
strategic
Yes.
with like your token placement. And because like getting a couple raids off early allows you to get so many birds out,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And like you almost want to prime a little weakness in the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just this one token. Like, oh, yeah.
It's
But you can't be
nothing.
too obvious with
Yeah,
it. You
don't
can't be too
worry
obvious.
about it.
Yeah,
It's just-
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
thing because like you could accelerate so fast because like I was I remember like wiping out birds in a couple clearance one time, and then the next turn you just slap down a card, birds everywhere.
More everywhere, yeah.
And that's the whole thing. So with the Corvids, it's almost like the first couple cards you want to play are like a bomb and a raid.
Yeah.
Because like it keeps them guessing, right?
Yeah.
Like and then you like if you play like their raid, if they aren't attacking, you get that bomb out there, and now they're like,
Yeah.
I gotta attack these.
Yeah.
They could be bombs,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like, and you gotta like
Exactly.
kind of force them to do stuff they're not
Yeah.
expecting. I don't know. It's a tricky
It
tricky
is
faction.
tricky, yes, yes.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed playing it. It was
Yeah.
fun. I do want to try out the lizard folks next
The
round.
lizard folks are good. They're
so I
good.
just
They're
like
nice.
being my people, spreading the word.
They're a nice, stable. Honestly, the lizard is the most annoying faction to
Yes,
play against.
yes,
I
it
gotta
was.
be honest. What against all other factions, and yes, Woodland Alliance is super annoying, but the lizards are the absolute worst
Yes,
because
they are.
like you don't want to ever fight them. So then there's just like a bazillion lizards everywhere,
Yep.
and
What's your ideal
yeah,
player count for
3
playing
is
this game?
playable, as
Yeah.
you can see, but you'll wind up in situations where there's not enough interaction between the
Right.
Woodland factions.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
That's
like,
the thing. I can't imagine this game with 2 players because it's just going to be 2 head
I
to
don't,
head.
I don't see
Yeah.
how
Like-
you would do it with 2.
Yeah.
I don't know why it allows a 2-player
Well,
game.
I mean, you can. So this has actually really strong solo modes,
Oh,
and like
okay.
that's the whole thing. Like, there's all the mechanical versions of the factions you can play
okay.
with or against.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a solo player. Like,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like playing board games against a robot opponent.
Yeah.
And the rules are very different from like the basic factions.
Right.
They just get like a lot of free stuff, and it turns into kind of a boss battler.
Right, yeah.
Which is okay if that's what you want to do.
Apparently, yeah.
I think for me, this game shines at 4. This is
4-player?
truly a 4-player game because you can't even play the Vagabond faction, which is one of the most fun factions, without 4. And
Yeah.
then here's the thing: is if you played with our exact lineup with a Vagabond, I still would have felt like the squares were light, and 5 would have been even better.
Better, yeah.
Because Riverfolk is a very non-present.
Yeah, you're just kind of
Guy.
you're in the little areas.
But that's the whole thing is like if I hadn't done Riverfolk, if I had done like either the moles or maybe the other birds, we would have had a lot more troops out there, right? It would have been a totally different
Or even the
experience.
lizards
Yeah.
flood everywhere.
And so like this is really where like and they do recommend certain faction dynamics to encourage and make sure there is
Oh, okay.
enough presence.
yeah,
But yeah, like honestly, you want a crap load of units everywhere. Like
Yeah.
that's where this
Right.
game is like really
Definitely, yeah.
fun. To me, like to me, the most unique mechanics they have are I think I think the original Bluebirds super unique.
Mm. Yes.
Like that snowballing mechanic.
Yeah.
Really clever, really cool. I think the actual Woodland Alliance with the revolts and the sympathy spreading.
Yeah.
That was really unique. And like honestly, the Vagabond is like very different, very unique.
Yeah.
So like with this original 4, 3 of them are some incredibly unique
Yeah.
abilities.
Please,
Yeah.
And then the next game they come out with like the Riverfolk, which is such a crazy unique faction.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's strategically strong, but
Yeah.
it can win. Obviously, we've seen.
Yeah.
And then I think the lizards are medium unique. Yeah, they kind of feel like they take from the Woodland Alliance a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah,
yeah. Right.
Some of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then in the next one, you get the moles, which that one felt a little bit kind of medium. Feels like it takes from the cats a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Corvid, it feels like it takes a little bit from Woodland Alliance
Yeah.
again. Still pretty unique with like the switching of the tokens.
Yeah. So you see hints of it a little bit from the
Yeah,
other species.
I mean that's why I think the original game is so strong, just because
Yeah.
they had so much cleverness baked in.
Yeah.
And like I still think the expansions bring in kind of clever things, but they feel like small tweaks
Yeah.
on their best ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas like
I mean, that really is the challenge with making completely unique factions on a
Yeah.
board that only has a certain number of things that you could do.
only do so many things. And I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
say like I do think like the new factions are they are unique, like they are different.
Yeah.
They're not as like rampantly different as you get in that
Yeah,
core
for
4.
sure.
Right.
I agree
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So after we got done playing and having fun and discovering these new races and stuff like that and getting your first time exposure, Alex, what would you say? We can say your with closing thoughts here. What are your closing overall thoughts of the game? I'll even give you like a rating system. What do you think out of 5? What would you give this game?
Yeah.
Go ahead. So that if you want to take the
I
spotlight on
mean,
that one.
this is definitely one of the more unique games I've experienced so far. Like, I definitely give this like at least a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Because like, I mean, of course, I won't be able to comment on it fully until I play all the characters, which I do want to do at some point.
Yes. And
So
we
we'll
will.
line up,
And we will.
9 more playtests.
Exactly. We got to get all the permutations.
9 more podcast episodes.
Yeah, let's go.
Because like again, it ultimately comes down to the replayability. It's a really compelling theme. It's illustrated beautifully, and I just love the way that like I said before, it's an ecosystem builder. It's just going to be entirely. Each game is going to have an entirely different personality, as opposed to just like each person kind of does their own thing. It always plays the same if you pick a certain character. It's not like that. Your role is going to change depending on what everyone else does, and I think that's a really unique way to construct a game and to make sure that it has a lot of longevity
Yeah.
over time.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah, that's good explanation of that and your experience. And 4.5 stars is your final
4.5
rating.
stars minimum.
You guys heard it there. Alex gives it 4.5 stars. First time ever. He's never played it before. Which, yeah, like I said, it's a little intimidating at first, but again, it's a fun game to play. Joe, do you want to announce who won during our first playthrough here?
I was the successful
Successful
winner.
winner.
I mean, ultimately, I've played this game a boatload of times, and I feel like it was a little bit of a rug pull because I feel like halfway through the game, you guys are like, "What is this dividend mechanic?"
Yeah.
But
Like, wait, hold on.
but I did win with the Riverfolk, which is definitely the hardest faction to win with. So
There you go.
yeah.
Yeah, guys, that was Root. We had fun playing it. We played beforehand. We showed Alex how to play Root. Thank you, Joe, for explaining the route, taking kind of the lead on this one of your favorite board game here and stuff like that.
Love it.
It's a
Love
fun game.
talking about
I
it.
love playing Root. Guys, before we end this podcast, we do have some questions that were brought in to us that you guys submitted. We're gonna go ahead and answer these questions. Don't know what they are. My
do it.
wife is behind one of the cameras, going to be asking the questions, and yeah, you guys feel free to participate. Some of them might be geared towards the podcast itself.
Okay.
Some of you guys we can open up for discussion here, and so yeah, Lydia, whenever you are ready to ask us the questions, run them.
If you had to be an NPC in a game, who would you be, and what would be your one task in that game?
Oh wow, that's a loaded question.
Like a specific NPC or like a role?
I think what was it? Just what if you could be an NPC in any game? Well, I know I wouldn't want to be an NPC in Grand Theft Auto.
No, my God, that'd be the worst.
That's the worst.
I'd just be my goal to walk
That's
down
like
the
the
street.
Game
Yeah.
of Thrones of video games.
Yeah, I just get destroyed. Oh, geez, that's an interesting question. I feel like it's hard because like some of my favorite games that I want to be in, like NPCs are easily like disposable of.
I know.
And-
I was like, no combat game.
Yeah,
you
no
don't want to
combat
be an NPC in a
game.
combat
Right.
game.
Yeah.
You want to be in like Stardew Valley or something.
Oh
you know,
yeah,
like-
Stardew. Yeah,
Either that or someone that's like plot important. Like I think I would want to be like a shopkeeper because
Yeah.
like if the player kills you, they lose access to like a vital part of the
Yeah,
game, and also
true.
because you get to make money. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah,
But
you're true.
That's like a survival perspective. I'm trying to think
Exactly.
of like who would be the fun NPC.
The NPC,
You know,
yeah.
like you could be the. I don't know.
Well, maybe like the gnarled old hero who's retiring or something.
Yeah.
With tons
Oh,
of
yeah.
legends to
I'm
tell.
trying to think of a game where the NPCs seem like they're having a good time. Like I don't know.
That's a tough question. I wouldn't mind being an NPC in Skyrim.
I was gonna say Skyrim could be.
I want to be the
interesting.
guy who's like, I used to be like you.
Yeah.
Just
I took an arrow to the knee.
Yeah. Just walk around. The guy just walks around the
Or
whole
the guy who
time.
wakes up as you like recover.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
You always see in the cart.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's infinite. And you're like, oh, you've been captured.
Yeah.
I think I if I had to narrow it down, I'll probably be either in Skyrim, an NPC in Skyrim, maybe one of the guards. Because I don't think you can kill those guys.
I've got it.
Okay.
It took me a while to come up with this. This could bite me in the butt. But if
Ooh.
I was gonna be an NPC, I'd be an NPC in Roller Coaster Tycoon.
yes, yes. Unless they build the roller coaster
I
where you just
mean,
jump off and die.
somebody's gonna build a roller coaster that kills me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
But if I die via roller coaster,
you
like,
die fun.
it could be much worse.
Yeah,
you know?
NPC. Okay, that's a
And-
good
yeah,
question.
and
Good
then
answer.
you'd be riding roller coasters
Yeah,
all day.
That's a classic.
That is a classic.
And you'd be
yeah.
like having to go to the bathroom, and they're like, "It's 7 miles away," and you're like, "God, who built this?"
I feel like you're setting yourself up for a lot of torment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly, this is definitely gonna bite me in the butt, but I do think it'd be
Someone
fun
built the
along
coaster
way.
that does like
Yeah, the
70,000
death
loops.
spiral.
Death spiral.
Yeah.
You experience like 102
I'm gonna
G-forces.
die some horrible deaths.
Yeah,
but
true, true.
until then, it'll probably be
Hey,
great.
that's okay because
Yeah.
there's no trash nearby. You just
Yeah.
throw up on the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
And just keep going.
I'll be
You're
eating
normal.
carny food the whole time, riding
Yep.
coasters.
Don't get sick. Don't
Yeah.
you're fine. Okay,
All right.
I like that's a good question.
All right, I like it.
Good
good
question.
life.
Good question.
That's a
Thank you
good
for
one.
that one.
Starting
That's-
strong.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Are you open to playtesting board games? If so, do you prefer tabletop simulator or in person?
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm always open to playtest. As you can see, that's how
Yep.
I got to introduced to widgets and digits. I prefer playtesting rather than actually like playing like set games, mostly because I just like the new ideas that you guys would come up with, things like new experiences. These games I can play anytime I want. Well, although they're like newer games, I get newer experiences and stuff. But playtesting, you're playing with the creators. And stuff.
Yeah.
It changes the dynamic. I think
Exactly.
it's more fun. I feel
Yeah.
like the creators are always super invested.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were really discussing this about our experience in the con because like once you go into the indie and new games room, we were at OrcCon. They have this dedicated indie and new games room. You can really feel the energy in the room. Everyone's so passionate about their games, and everyone takes feedback about their games too. You can really talk to them about like, oh, what could have done better, what they really enjoyed, and they'll take their feedback on board, and it really feels like the game evolves the next time you see it because OrcCon
Yeah.
happens 4 times a year, I think.
3 times.
And
Yeah.
3 times a year, and people come back, people iterate on their game. You can really see how it evolves, and if they really brought your feedback on board, part of you lives in that game now.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I love playtesting games. And the second part of the question was, we prefer TTS or in person. I personally like in person because I like meeting someone instead of just hearing you with a
Yeah.
voice in the headphones. But I mean, some of you guys that are trying to create games, you only have TTS. That's the only thing. So I wouldn't mind playtesting your guys' game on TTS. But if you have the option for in person, yeah, I'm more of an in person, meeting someone, interacting with someone, that connection and stuff like that. So that's
Even a crappy handmade game is still fun, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's where all the love is. You know?
Yeah, exactly,
Little-
yeah.
little stickers for where you gotta move your guys.
little
It's
paper
great.
ones. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, TTS, when we were building Witches and Digits, the first time we made it was like, oh, why didn't we do this earlier? Because it's so easy to
much
start
easier.
prototyping and,
It is,
like,
yeah.
have the game look polished for people who might not be in your city, who are also interested.
Yeah, I think DTS is a great form of like expanding to like other people to like
Oh, yeah.
get their hands on it at least to play it, and then be like, hey, if you like this, we're getting the physical copy out soon.
It's certainly
Yeah.
easier to find playtesters because in person it's like maybe once a month.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard.
Yeah, I said playtesting. I love playtesting, and yeah, in person is my question. It's a good question.
That's a good one.
Next one.
How approachable are the sad boys in public?
Oh,
Ooh.
okay, okay.
That's why I said it.
I met them
Yeah,
and they were
yeah,
great.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he can be funny, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 10 out of 10. Great.
There you go. See? Sad Boys, again, for those that don't know what the Sad Boys are, it comprises of Scott, Omar, and I. You've probably seen us.
Why do you guys call yourselves the sad boys?
Good question.
Is it like a pity thing?
Are you guys emo? Like what's going on? It's not a
So-
phase, mom.
Yeah, it's not a
You got to get the eyeliner going if you want to get the look.
I created the Sad Boys because
Oh,
every time we would game, something sad would happen to us. That was just like,
Okay.
what? Like we would get blown up. Or something
Okay.
happened, and I'm like, nothing happened. Nothing happy happens to us.
actual sad.
Yeah, like
okay.
actual sadness. So like we'd always be like, no, we're the Sad Boys. Like nothing can happen.
I thought you were writing like bad poetry.
No,
like,
yeah, actually it
my
is.
soul is like a dark puddle,
I lost-
too deep to see the bottom.
I came to last place in Root, just like my soul was.
Yeah. When I look in the mirror, all I see is darkness.
I am the Corvid conspiracy.
Girls call me Batman.
No, yeah, I think it started when we played Sea of Thieves.
Oh,
And so
well,
we-
there's a lot of
Yeah.
sad
Yeah,
opportunities.
there are a lot. So we named the ship the Sad Boy Imperium.
Oh my god!
And like every time we'd go off to sail, we just get destroyed by
that's
other
a great
players.
game. That
It's
is
a fun
that's
game.
a great game.
Yeah.
But that's how it created, and we're like, we're the Sad Boy crew. We're always getting blown up.
My only take on Sea of Thieves is it seems like it's a fun game you can hop in and have fun with. I have my longest game sessions though playing Sea of Thieves because
wild.
like to do one like mission, you have to like get a crew together. You guys are actually having to communicate. You got to
Yep.
plan. You got to hit all the little side stops. It takes hours and
Yep.
hours to do like one little like treasure
Yep.
hunt.
Yep.
You know?
So yeah, long-winded answer to yes, we're approachable. Thank you for that.
I
question.
forgot there was a question.
Yeah, there was a question. What we're talking about. All right, last question. What we got here?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, speaking of conventions, are there any conventions that you like to go to? And then I'll throw in what are ones that you want to go to?
That I'd like to go to and ones that I want to go to. Is it-
Like going to and one
Oh, I just said like want to go to, and I was like, that's the same question. Okay, that I like going to, and that I one that I've want to go to. Well, I've only been to I've been to 2 conventions in like my entire life, which is crazy.
We're both Strategicon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. So, Strategic Con I'm lumping as like one whole thing. So
Yeah.
that's a con. That's a
Right.
GameX,
Yeah,
Strategic
that's
Con,
the whole
Orcon.
thing. Yeah.
That's the whole
Orcon,
thing.
yeah.
So, I've been to Strategic Con, Orcon, whatever that, and I've been to Anime Impulse, which was another
That'd be fun.
convention. That one was cool. That one was like a small, like it was like anime / like a sneaker convention. So like you had like
Sneaker
yeah,
convention?
It was weird. It was like you had like the anime con, and then the bag was like sneakers, like the vendors, and I was like, okay.
I guess
Huh.
selling shoes.
Yeah, it
Gotta
worked.
Pay for the
It-
con.
It works. It works.
Hey.
And so
I guess there's a crossover audience.
yeah. So, but I like going to Strategic Con because it's like I'm with my peoples.
Yeah.
I'm hanging out with everyone. You know, everyone's just like me. We all love board games. So that's one I like going to. That I mean, like I said, I don't have much choices. Anime Con was cool. I mean, the Anime Impulse was cool, but I mean, it's not something I'm like clamoring to go to as much because it's like it's a small little thing. It's not really big, and so that one and one that I would like to go to. I really like to go to Gen Con in
Yeah,
Indianapolis.
I've heard
The
Gen
big,
Con's
the
huge.
big board
Right.
game convention.
That's like the real
That's
deal.
the real one, yeah. That's the real one. Like, that's one, yeah. I like to go to Gen Con. You guys have been to more cons, probably. What do you guys?
I've only been to a couple more board game cons. I went to one in the Bay Area called Big Bad Con. I mean, honestly, Strategicon's the best board game con I've been to. What I like about board game cons over other types of cons is it's a con about doing activities. Like I feel like other cons, it's a lot of like panel
Right.
work and like, or it's like getting really cool stuff. Like
Yeah.
you get really cool shirts and stuff.
More visual.
I just feel like a lot of it is like a visual. Yeah. You
Yeah.
walk through, you're like, this is cool, that's cool, and then you go, all right, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas like the board game cons, you could go the whole 4 days, and then you could still be like, well, I could still play more board games. You
Yeah.
know, like
There's
there's
always something new going on.
yeah, there's always
Yes.
something new going on. You could just play an unlimited amount of board games. I mean, not unlimited. Stamina is real.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
sure, yeah.
But
You
like,
get tired, yeah.
It's an activity-based con, and me, I always need something to do. So like, they're super
Yeah.
fun. Strategicon's the best local one I've been to. It's just like not just because as like a board game designer, they have really good support for the indie game devs.
Yeah.
But just like it's a really active con. I like their little modular room setup. It feels very like active. There's always
Yeah.
stuff happening.
Yeah, I would rather go to Board Game Con because I meet new people. I play games that we get to interact and
And
have
what I
fun.
love about board game cons is like the thing about board games is you need people to play with.
Yes.
You know, and like it's a con of just people to play board games.
Mm-hmm.
Like and like that's why it's so easy to make friends. It's so easy to do whatever because everyone's there to meet other people to play board games. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
we're here to game, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think it's just a friendly environment.
Yeah, I
Really
agree.
friendly environment.
Board game community is very, very supportive of each other, very interactive. Yeah, you'll obviously have those ones that were like super like
Try
oh,
hard.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
play board games. Let me
Yeah.
play. Okay, all right, bro,
There's always
relax.
going to be the elitists.
Honestly,
Yeah.
though, the more I play board games, the more I don't see that type of person.
Really?
I just think it's because like you're not gonna have anybody to play with if you're a jerk.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
Yeah.
True.
When you're a jerk, like you just lose friends.
Yeah,
Like, and
exactly.
I'm like, as we get older too, it's like people that are willing to play board games with me are like better than gold. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
the top tier, the top tier.
top tier friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately board games shouldn't be used as kind of like a gatekeeping mechanism. Like
Yeah.
that goes against the whole point of board games. That's why, like, you know, our motto, games bring the hive together. I'm pretty sure we'll never make a single player game just because like that goes kind of against our mission statement.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I love a good solo game. I like playing a solo game when I'm like, I have absolutely nothing to do, but
Yeah.
that's rare. Like, I always got video games to play too, or a board game to play too, stuff like that. But Board Game Con is
Board Game Con, top tier.
top tiers ones. And I love going to Strategicon. Can't wait to GameX.
Yeah.
And Strategicon in September time. And that's where I met you guys, and I'm looking forward to meeting more people. I mean, I felt like I met even more people at Orcon this past time. That's
We're really
passed by.
getting a community going. It feels like
Yes.
every
Yeah.
time you go, it's like you see the boys, you see the.
You're like, hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah,
Like,
people recognize you. You get to see how like what kind of new inventions
And
and
what that
advances
is the
people have
added
made.
benefit of constantly going to the indie games room is like we're all gonna be there again,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
like,
and then,
see you next
and
time.
then I know, and then like it gets to the point where like you got 20 friends now at the con, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Kev, hey,
you
Obi.
know how you make friends with a board game designer? Play their game one time, say
Yeah.
that was fun, and they're like, that's all I need.
It's like, then you
Here's
just
my
become their
number.
best
Here's
friend.
my email. Here's my
like,
socials.
Hit me with it again.
Yeah.
Yes,
And they're like,
definitely.
this art, good. And they go, oh.
I succeeded in life.
You know how you crush them? I don't get it.
No, it's so easy to make friends
So,
in
so
indie new
many
games
This was
room.
boring.
yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys again for those questions.
Yeah, yeah.
If you guys want to ask any more questions to us, go ahead, submit those questions. We're on all social medias. Joe and Alex, thank you guys so much for coming. It was so much fun. We had fun playing Root. Can't wait to do some more playthroughs of Root again. We'll get together again and play some more board games.
Let's do it.
And yeah, again, thank you guys so much for watching. Y nos vemos para la próxima.